Hi guys, welcome to this video. Today I'm gonna be doing another scenario involving Iran. It's obvious. This week's has been full of a lot of stuff about Iran actually, but like I had plans of making this specific video already some days ago, but I don't know why. I'm just so lazy. Like I don't have the I, how do you say that? I don't have like the strength, like the labor force, like stand up from my bed, like for just some minutes, and throw my phone away, and then you know mm, record the video. Like I don't know why I'm lazy. Like even though I kind of like using the PC, but like I'm lazy. Like I don't want to grab the whole PC back thing. Take the PC, put it on the table. I don't know why. I just I'm just so lazy about that. But you know, I'm gonna try to like remove that laziness. And now tomorrow I have an exam, so I'm gonna have to do this video as quick as possible because I'm gonna have to do homework. Now, and some plans that I have for next week, because yes, I'm actually gonna tell you some plans I have for my channel for the next weeks. I'm gonna try to build some kind of schedule. Is it recording me well? Yes, it is recording. Now, mm, after this video. I have plans on making another video that actually involves BRICS. Like I don't know if you know what BRICS is, like that economic alliance between countries, Russia, China, India, South Africa, Brazil. It also includes other countries as well. I have plans of making a video involving BRICS. Stay tuned for that. I'll try to release it as much as possible, maybe in these days, but I'm gonna put a limit to myself that I must respect. You know, the 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 latest day in which I can, release the next video has gotta be Saturday, okay? Like, maybe I can build like a schedule, like, I don't know, maybe usually I do videos Wednesday and Saturday, and then sometimes I also do it in other days as well, if I have time, obviously, but I gotta remove this laziness of mine. Oh my God, like if I didn't have this laziness, my channel would already be full with a lot of more videos. Also, I note that my channel, in my description, I basically said that this channel is mostly about TDC. And meanwhile, I haven't done only some TDC stuff. If you check out my posts, I have, written some opinions about some TDC stuff, but other than that, like I didn't do anything of TDC here. Like I now at the same time, I don't want my content to be just TDC, because I also like other stuff as well. But I don't want like to not do anything TDC related either because I did hear the news about about the TDC episode 9 coming to theaters, and at first I was worried about that because I'm actually from Europe. I'm at first, this watching episode 9 in theaters wasn't available for Europe, but now I've heard the news that it's available for Europe, so I gotta watch it, but I gotta go well at school because otherwise, yeah, and then like I want like my family to buy me tickets for the episode 9 thing. I want them for June 4th. Like I don't want to risk not even one day of possible spoilers. Like I just want to watch it immediately. So maybe, after the whole bricks video, maybe I could do another video where I like, I don't know, think about what could happen in episode 9. Like I'm gonna also like try to analyze one of the most popular theories that are in the fandom right now. Uh, you know, like this is brave for me because honestly, I did have some experiences with the fandom, so maybe I don't. In some cases, I don't really find that much fun theorizing because it can get controversial. It can go into discussions, into arguments. And I don't like that because I'm a guy who likes peace. Okay. So yeah, so look forward to that as well. So I may as well begin to do some TDC stuff as well because that's what my this channel is supposed to be mostly about after all. Maybe I could also show some other merch I have as well. I don't know, like I gotta find something. or maybe I could show some designs I've colored, some designs I drew about CDC, obviously, so drawings, not designs, drawings. Um, I'll try to think about something, okay? But now, let's do what this video is about. And once again, it involves a right now. If you look my latest video actually before the national anthem. Yeah, don't even look about for the national anthem. It was about a certain YouTuber. Anyways, um, my latest long video was about making a run rate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that nobody from this country and this country got upset by that video, right? Right? Anyways, so I'm gonna be doing another video about Iran, and this one is actually gonna be pretty interesting now. Like the other one, it's actually gonna begin, and immediately after the Islamic Revolution happens and succeeds, but this time it's gonna go different, okay? Because I don't know how much true this is, but I did read, but I read that after the Islamic Revolution, initially there was a moderate government in place. I'm sure there was still the Ayatollah, but like the president or prime minister, it was a moderate government. So it wasn't, like as extremist and authoritarian as it is today. It was actually a moderate government that like requested and like aid from the USA or help from the USA. I don't know why the USA declined that. Like, why would you do that? Like, like you could have kept some influence in Iran, and instead the US declined that, and that just led the pathway for, the extremists, for more extremist factions to rise in power. Then it led to the whole hostage crisis, and which in turn also kind of led to the whole war with Iraq thing. Yeah, we all know how that went. Like, if you know about this, like tell me why the US declined. Like I know that the president at that time said that like the US didn't want to get involved in Iranian affairs, but I mean, I don't really interpret that as getting involved in Iranian affairs. Like the USA was already involved in Iranian affairs, even with the previous regime, the whole monarchist regime. So why change all of a sudden? Like I don't know. The USA is interesting when it comes to foreign policy. They say one thing and then they say another. Pretty familiar. I'm pretty sure that I don't know. Like mm, I don't know. Is the US the only country that says one thing and then does the exact opposite thing? I gotta think about that if I'm being honest. It's sarcasm, by the way, because the US isn't totally the only country who tells lies. Most countries in this world tell lies, because that's just how politics are, full of lies and corruption. Anyway, so yeah, this alternate scenario about Iran that we are doing today, if you haven't already guessed it, is actually about the US accepting like sending aid to Iran. So like we have the extremist factions being prevented from taking power, and the moderate government is remains in place. So we kind of have the US and Iran kind of remaining allies, although Iran, becoming more independent, less dependent on the US. I don't know if this is realistic, but we are gonna do this later because I find it really interesting. So first of all, there's like a lower oil shock, there is less oil crisis, and I don't know if that could change U.S. Elections and politics. We're not really gonna dive too much into that. We're also not really gonna dive too much into um mm, this. We don't talk about that in today's video. We are not gonna talk about that, okay? What we are going to talk about is, the hostage crisis is prevented, and Iraq also invaded Iran because it was unstable, and maybe, by Iran like keeping some sort of partnership with the US, there is less instability. I don't know. But what we're going to do is that Iraq actually is not going to invade Iran. Now, this could very well result in like in Iraq being less hostile, towards Kuwait, towards the West, because without being damaged from the war with Iran, Iraq may not have a reason to invade Kuwait. But we're actually gonna make that even if the war with Iran doesn't happen, we still have Iraq eventually invading Kuwait. Yeah, that's right. It's still gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna happen earlier, or if it's still gonna happen like in 1990. But what we do know is that, the Gulf Shield is obviously gonna be activated by this. Now, I don't know like necessarily too much about how the first Gulf War went. And yeah, I just don't know, okay? But we are gonna be having Gulf Shield, and activated. And of course, we also knew that other countries got involved into this as well. Of course, the US got involved in the Gulf War. Like, I'm gonna try to like base this on what I read about what I read about the Gulf War, but I may get something wrong. So, if you like are from like any of the Western countries, or if you actually are from some of these Arab countries I just color in blue, like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, tell me in the comments like how did the Cold War exactly went? Like I know the basics that Iraq invaded Kuwait and and they annexed it, and then like a huge chunk of the world retaliated. Like seriously, like of course here I'm not gonna color other countries because maybe some of them were just simply sending support. Like seriously, like do all of NATO. All of NATO was against Iraq, basically. Also, some of these African countries were against Iraq. Pakistan was against Iraq. Maybe even some of these East Asian countries were against Iraq. Like, seriously, like half of the world was against Iraq in the first Gulf War. Like, if pet isn't unfair, then I don't know what the unfair is, okay? Then I think the UK and France also got involved into this as well. I mean, the UK and France, kind of get involved like in most of the wars the US gets involved in. I don't know about Canada, but they're probably sending support for the blue team. So like obviously what happened is that Iraq invaded Kuwait and then they just like annexed it. But here the world is gonna this war is gonna go different. Also Turkey was involved in this. And basically I'm telling you this, like most, if not all of NATO and other parts of the world were like against Iraq in the first Gulf War. Like you can even search it up in Wikipedia. Like you're gonna see the sheer amount of countries that like went against Iraq just to liberate a small nation such as Kuwait. Like it's incredible if I'm being honest. Anyways, what's gonna change here is that we're actually gonna be having Iran. Actually, yeah, that's interesting because actually, even in OTL, Iran did condemn the invasion of Kuwait, even if they didn't really side with the West. But in this case, with the more modern government in place in Iran, like I don't know, it's kind of like an Islamic democracy, so not as oppressive as OTL. Iran is gonna join this on the side of the West. Also, how will the war in Afghanistan change? I don't know. We are not really gonna dive into that, okay? But what's gonna happen here? Well, basically we are still, gonna be having forces being sent here that, liberate Kuwait. And then I don't know how the invasion of Iraq went in OTL in the first Gulf War. I'm pretty sure like they push a little and then maybe peace was signed. But in this case, uh, Iran, they're gonna push in, Iraq does have some like minorities of the Shiite Muslim religion, so maybe Iran wants some of that. I don't know, but Baghdad is gonna be captured. Like once again, like even if they aren't coloring, like there's like a half of the world supporting the war against Iraq. So once again, all the support coming, yeah, Iraq is proved, and yeah, it's gonna fall. Okay, and in this case, Iraq is not gonna be spared easily. So let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. So what we can do with this peace treaty, now I think that Iran is gonna get satisfied, by some a little bit. So I think the shit areas are like something like this. Then I feel like Aaron will also like, get some sort of puppet team here in Kurdistan, or maybe Iranian aligned Kurdistan. I don't know, like I'm just doing this for fun, and I don't want to upset anybody, by doing this. And I totally don't want to upset anybody from this particular country by doing this. Absolutely not, okay? What's gonna happen to the rest of Iraq? Like, what do we do with it? What do we do with this? We're actually, gonna say that the US is gonna make Iraq puppet like a decade earlier. Of course, I'm pretty sure it will be released back into an independent country, but for now, it's gonna be a puppet of the US. So, Iran, they are getting their influence, they annex some areas they wanted from Iraq. They also, kind of have a Kurdistan as an ally the country. And I'm pretty sure in this case relations, with Gulf countries are like better, maybe more like a friendly rivalry rather than an all-out rivalry. I'm pretty sure the Saudi Arabia are like complete with influence, about these countries, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, Oman, like, but it's not gonna be as dangerous as OTL, obviously. And honestly, from here, where do we go? Also, in this case, Iran is actually gonna have nukes in this scenario because mm, and actually during the monarchy's Iran era, there was actually a program in cooperation with the US about getting nukes. So in this case, Iran is not anti-Western. That cooperation may continue starting against nukes, but they're not gonna use them against the West. And fortunately, so Saudi Arabia is not gonna feel threatened by that. So you see, with you remove Iran, like basically, why this is how it is. During when there was the Pahlavi Iran, the monarchies Iran, the Middle East was kind of stable. Once you remove the Shah, it all collapsed. The Iran-Iraq War happened. The first Gulf War happened. The war in Afghanistan also had something to do with Iran. Stopping being Western, and then obviously the wall thing in New York City happened, in 2001, which then led to this, which then led to this, and then we also had various civil wars. You see, Iran, uh, becoming anti-Western really like added a huge amount of instability in the Middle East, and probably even beyond, like even here, like I don't know. And in this case, with Iran kind of staying pro-Western, like we don't really have that much instability rising up, if I'm being honest. Mm. Like, for example, the civil war in Yemen, like maybe avoided, or like in this case, the Shiite faction doesn't get any support from Iran. So, we have, Yemen, being, you know, more stable, with less destruction, basically. And then, how about, Syria? Like, I don't know, like, the civil war probably still breaks out. I don't think that really depend on Iran. Now, Russia, of course, will probably still send support to the main Syrian government, but without Iran really sending any support to Syria, like, is the Syrian civil war is still gonna end like here in 2024? Does it end earlier? Does it end like quickly? Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of things have been butterflied here in the Middle East, due to Iran not becoming so anti-Western. Then there's also the whole thing about Lebanon, that extremist group that there is in Lebanon, that kind of depends on Iran, but it also kind of depends on Syria. And Syria still kind of went through its OTL history, until obviously the civil war breaks out, but by the time the civil war breaks out, that extremist faction in Lebanon was already, solidified. So honestly, I'm not really sure, but basically the Middle East here is kind of more stable. And of course there's still the yeah, but we're not gonna address this, okay? We don't address that in this video, okay? How will be like about the whole Armenian Azerbaijan thing? Like, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know, Iran is more willing to be friends with Azerbaijan, less support for Armenia, or like we still have like some Western European countries, some sort of like diplomatic support for Armenia. I'm not really sure, if I'm being honest. Of course, the invasion of Ukraine happens, we Iran doesn't really send any support to Russia here. They probably actually condemn the invasion. I'm not really sure if they will send support to Ukraine, but at least they will be neutral about the war. Also, like, will Iran, like, sure, it's a modern government, but like will it be like fully Western country in the sense that like they hate the Eastern countries, probably have good relations with the West, or will it be something like this kind of in the middle countries, like I don't know, Egypt, Brazil, like they hold relations mostly with the West, but they also hold some like with Russia, China. Like I'm not really sure how this will go. Also, like, will Iran-US relations change depending on the administration, or will they stay the same with whatever government, because then we also have to address the fact that the current US leader, is interesting, in this case, you wouldn't, need to do the war against Iran since, you know, Iran is most likely not doing anything to this. But once again, we are not gonna address that. So yeah, so relations better, or are they like still like neutral, leaning towards bad, but not like an all-out robbery? Now you see, this scenario was kind of boring, but because I mean, technically, what would have happened if Iran had stayed more moderate? There would have been less instability in the Middle East. So, the Middle East would have been more stable. So of course, not a lot of stuff is gonna happen. Like seriously, what allies the Russian China have in the Middle East in this case? Like literally, they don't have any. Like Yemen, Yemen. I mean, Yemen's main government already isn't like aligned to Russia and China. You see, I think I'm frustrated with is that in World War II scenarios, always put Yemen on the side of Russia and China, but these are like the rebels. They rebel. Like the main Yemeni government is actually aligned with Saudi Arabia and the US. So I don't know why people always put Yemen like on the Eastern Bloc. I don't get that. But what I'm trying to say is that any possibility for Yemen like to go like extremists, on the side of Russia, China, that is thrown out the window. Of course, Syria, either if quickly or like earlier than 2024 or soon in 2024, either way, Syria is still not gonna, it's gonna, mm, lean more towards the West after the civil war ends. And then Lebanon, I mean, we don't know if that extremism is still gonna like be influential, but even if it's influential, like it's a small country, so it's not gonna serve as a huge thing for Russia and China, and of course Israel, is Western line, but we are not talking about that. So yeah, honestly, like in this case, the West maintains some sort of influence in the you know in the Middle East. Now, but also we're gonna try to do this interesting style. So we're gonna like take out like the rivalry blocks. So the main blocks here are obviously gonna be Saudi Arabia and Iran. In this case, they are both aligned with the West. But in this case, they're more like friendly rivals rather than outright rivalry. So obviously, Iran will have this. Then I'm pretty sure that like Azerbaijan will have good relations with both Turkey and Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan will have good relations with both Turkey and Iran, so I don't know what to make out of that. But mm, but I feel like Saudi Arabia will probably have influence over this, and yeah. And I feel like I don't know what will Iraq be like. Maybe Iraq will kind of be neutral in this, because even until Iraq is like a really neutral country, actually. But since we're not really considering Turkey here, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, Azerbaijan will most definitely choose. Now, I'm not saying that these are alliances. This is like the influence blocks. You have the Saudi Arabian bloc, then you have the Iranian bloc, and in football we're gonna put like the countries that are in the middle between. They lean towards Iran, but they also lean towards Saudi Arabia, and these are basically all these countries here. And so yeah, this is like the block here, and of course all this block is sort of like aligned with the US. Maybe Iran will be something like Saudi Arabia in terms of foreign points, like they're mainly Western, but they also do hold some talks with Russia and China. But once again, I'm not really sure if that will be the case. I mean, because once again, this is official scenario. We don't know if this is exactly how it went. I mean, most definitely, this small thing with Iraq will most likely never happen. I just added that because I feel like, I mean, we at least gonna make one worse scenario in this video. Otherwise, it would have been extremely boring. And it is already boring. This video is kind of boring. So I apologize if this video was boring, but I just wanted to make, something simple. But, like, seriously, like, the next video is gonna be more entertaining. It's gonna involve, I think with bricks. I don't want to spoil it too much, but trust me, you are gonna love it, okay? And then I also try, to also, put some TADC stuff as well, in the next videos, in the following videos, in the following weeks. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, even if it wasn't as enthusiastic as the last mapping video. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.